it just totally made sense to me. Like instantly, as soon as I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, what he's describing in this article totally pertains to me. Like, he's mentioned the symptoms and about hair analysis. I'm like, that is exactly what's going on with me. So what I did, I was so impressed. I called him up on the phone and I told him my symptoms. And within 5 or 10 seconds on the phone, he told me, you have adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. I was blown away. How did he know this when I've been seeing all these doctors and practitioners looking for answers for years? And he knew right away.
That is Kristen Harper this week on the Do It For Yourself podcast. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Do It For Yourself podcast. My name is Ian, and I am the host of this podcast. It's my podcast, and I want to thank you for coming over and joining us for this week's episode. My guest this week is Kristen Harper. And Kristen is someone who is specializing in helping people with adrenal exhaustion because she herself struggled from adrenal exhaustion all the way up until she was 22 years old. And I'm sure for most of you who are entrepreneurs or endurance athletes, people who are constantly on the go, you have felt some sort of adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. You're just very, very tired. And this was something that Kristen was living every day with for a very, very long time. And she had tried many, many different things, and it wasn't until she discovered something called hair mineral analysis that really, really helped her. And it got her back onto the right path. And it was something that really turned life around for her. And because of the impact that this made on her life, Kristen has started a company doing the hair mineral analysis, and she's gone on to help people who are in the shoes that she used to be in as well. And so in this episode, we get a chance to dive into what it was like for Kristen going through this adrenal exhaustion and leading up to this pivotal moment when she discovered hair mineral analysis, and then how she became so passionate about this that she in turn then made this into her business and made this into something that she was going to bring to other people. So this was a conversation that I really, really enjoyed, and there are some points that I was very, very fascinated about because this is obviously something that I had never heard of. So I'm really looking forward to bringing you this conversation with Kristen Harper. Thank you so much for taking some time out of what is, I'm sure, an extremely busy schedule for you. It's probably coming pretty close to about quitting time for you. So I appreciate you reserving some time at the end of your day where I'm sure it's a little bit difficult to kind of add one more thing onto the plate. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and come on the podcast with me this evening.
Oh, you're most welcome. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And I was talking with you in our little pre-show chat here, and I was telling you how I really think that your story it's going to fit and it's going to resonate really well with some of this endurance athlete based community that listens to the show, because you yourself, your story that we're focusing on is not one of an endurance background. However, it's probably something that some, if not most, endurance athletes experience at one point in time. So before we get into your story and what it is that you have to share with us today, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself and what you are up to right now?
Okay, so as of right now, my schedule's been very hectic. So I actually have a radio show. I just finished this afternoon. It's on voiceamerica.com. So I have my radio show, and I have that every week. That keeps me busy. And then I have a company, Perfect Health Consulting Services. I've had it for almost 10 years, and I review hair tests. So I'm doing that, and I also do speaking, and just recently did a speech at a college, just talking about, living a healthy lifestyle, eating healthy. I also talked about the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. We have two minds, and there are some individuals that have no idea that we have two minds. And I writing a book right now. It will be hopefully published later this year. It's finished. I'm just going through the editing process, and then I have other plans here. I'm, working on projects as far as online courses for individuals that have certain health conditions, and group coaching. And so I'm an Aries, so I very ambitious person.
And you have quite a few things going on as well.
Absolutely, yes.
And I've heard that, and I don't know how true this is. I have never written a book myself, but I've heard that sometimes the actual editing process can take just as long or longer than the writing of, that first draft, so to speak.
Oh yes, it's so long. And I've never written a book before. This is like my first one.
Okay.
And it takes so long. And I think it's more difficult too when you have a busy schedule, because you still have to squeeze in that time to continue writing your book or doing the editing. I just had no idea that it's this involved. So now I respect authors so much, like more now. Like I was just talking to this gentleman recently, and I forgot how many books he's written, like 10 or more. I'm like, I don't know how he's done that. Wow.
And so it's actually funny because what we're going to get into, you dealt with an adrenal exhaustion from essentially childhood onward, and even at like a very young age of 21, 22 years old, you were extremely exhausted, like day in and day out. And I would have to assume that your plate probably wasn't as full then as it is now, and you are not feeling the same way.
No, I'm not at all. It's like totally different. Like even today, I had a sauna session, and afterwards, like, and I take care of myself now. I mean, like I am really about eating healthy at 100%. No giving in to unhealthy foods occasionally. I mean, this is like 100% living a healthy lifestyle. And I just had a sauna session today, and then afterwards, I mean, just like energetic, healthy, feeling so great. So it's like totally different from going, back in childhood, just completely different.
Yeah, so let's talk about your childhood a little bit, and talk about some of these symptoms and things that you were feeling as you were coming up through childhood and into your teens and young adulthood, because you were dealing with adrenal exhaustion. And I know that for us endurance athletes, adrenal fatigue is something that we hear a lot. And, there's a lot of things out there about adrenal fatigue, and there is, supplements you can take that help fight adrenal fatigue. And it's something that as endurance athletes we deal with because we are constantly going. So, is there a difference between adrenal fatigue and adrenal exhaustion? Is really the first thing that I would like to establish.
I would say that they have the same similar meaning. So there's adrenal burnout, there's adrenal insufficiency, there's adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. Similar meanings, so I would consider them the same.
Okay. And so what were some of the things and some of the symptoms that you were feeling, and were they the same all throughout your childhood and into adulthood, or did things start to change and maybe some symptoms went away, and you kind of almost thought as if you were feeling better, but there were then also some new symptoms that popped up?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So, like in childhood, I had fatigue. I felt, shaky before meals. And I remember times, and I had a doctor when I was young. He told me that I had hypoglycemia. And then you know how like doctors will recommend like a certain diet. So I was following his healthy diet recommendations and stuff, and it didn't help at all. And there were times, I mean, I just didn't feel right. I remember there were times like, you like black out temporarily. Um, and so I would say, I mean, like I was just tired to where like I go to school, like even elementary school, and I remember afterwards, children, they have like so much energy and they're involved with so much and like, they like to play outside and do all these things. But I remember there were times I was just so tired that after school I would just go home and take a nap, just go to sleep. And I would say, you know, elementary, junior high, high school, I just felt like the fatigue just got worse, didn't get better. So it actually got worse. I don't remember, I don't feel that there were any additional symptoms that came up later on in my life. I said they're about the same symptoms, but it was just the fatigue got worse. And,
So okay,
oh, go ahead.
go. I was going to say there was two things that I really wanted to ask you about. The first thing was you said that you would get shaky before meals. Like, and can you explain that for me? Like, do you mean that your hands would kind of get shaky, or your whole body would get shaky? And was it if you hadn't eaten for a long time and you were really hungry, or it was just centered around meals and it didn't matter the timing between?
Yeah, it was more the meals, just like feeling so weak and that I had to eat.
Okay,
So
and
it was more just weakness.
so it was like if you hadn't eaten and you were really hungry, you felt like you were like really, really weak and you were kind of like a little shaky.
Yes.
All right, understood. Cool. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, this is very, very interesting for me because I have tried to explain this to people and um, I can't. I can't explain it to somebody. And the way that you just worded it is exactly the way that I've worded it to people. And you said that you would black out temporarily. So that's very interesting to me because I myself, I have experienced that. And it seems like most of the time it's when I am like standing and waiting for something. It's kind of like I'm not doing anything. It's not as if it's not like I'm driving a car or nothing like that. If I have something to focus on, then it's not, it doesn't happen, but it's frequently happened that it when it has happened, I should say, it's been when I've kind of just been standing, like doing absolutely nothing. And it's almost as if there's like a little black curtain that comes over your eyes and it lasts for, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds, if that. And then you kind of like, it's almost like the curtain slowly comes off of your eyes again. And you're kind of just standing there and you're like, oh, it just happened again. Like you don't realize that it's happening until after the fact. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, I would say it's similar. I remember the same similar situations where I'd be standing and then have that blackout.
And would you like faint or go down or anything like that? Or
No,
it's almost as if
no,
like,
no. It happened so quickly, and I wouldn't faint or anything. It just happened so fast. But I remember there were even times where, not all the time, it was mainly when I was standing up. But then there were sometimes I would just like sit down afterwards. You know?
yeah. So this is crazy for me because I have never talked to anybody else who has experienced this before. And I mean, I have never gotten any sort of testing done, like especially the testing and the analysis that we're going to talk about today. But at the same time, like I thought that it was that maybe I was hungry and I wasn't eating enough, but then it happened when that wasn't the case, when I was full and it still happened. And I thought it was because of like I thought it was from my eyes being really dry, and so my eyes were just so dry that like this is what was happening. And now I'm really really wondering if there's something more to it, because like I said, you are the only other person that I've ever talked to since this happened, and it's only happened a handful of times, and it's been over the last year or so. But it's just so interesting that I have this opportunity to talk with you about this.
Yes. I'm glad we're talking about this topic, you know?
Yeah,
Really.
absolutely. And so there were some conventional medicine things and healing arts that you had tried to remedy this, and those things did not work. And I know you mentioned that you were trying this diet that a doctor gave you. Were there any specifics with this diet that he gave you that you can remember?
I don't think it was like the most healthiest diet that I've ever been on, but I remember, you know, saw him when I was in childhood, and remember he recommended quite a bit of protein, and he did a blood test on me, and he told me that I had hypoglycemia. So I followed his diet, and I followed it very closely, I would say, and even had like protein snacks, and but it never helped at all. And then also, so I still had the fatigue, and then I remember there was one time where I actually went into the hospital and they did tests because I mean I was seeing doctors and pursued Western medicine and holistic modalities or holistic health, and I wasn't getting answers because I knew something else was going on, but I just these doctors and practitioners, they couldn't figure out what was going on. So I went into a hospital and had tests done, and I didn't get answers there, and I remember going, I believe, out of state as well. They thought it was possibly my thyroid, so I saw a practitioner out there, out of state, and I believe I tried hormone replacement therapy. That didn't help. Tried supplements, various diets, and nothing worked. And I wasn't receiving answers.
And so, you said that you traveled out of state. How far out of state did you travel to try and get some answers for something like this? And at what point, at what age was this that you finally decided, okay, these things that I've tried here locally, they're not working, and now I need to travel out of state for this?
All right. So I believe where I went out of state was New Mexico. There was a practitioner out there that was an expert with the thyroid, So I went to see her, and I don't remember what age that was. I just couldn't give you an answer. It's just because I tried so much over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember the exact date, but or the exact age.
And
Not quite sure, but it wasn't until I figured things out around 2001 when I knew what was wrong with my health. And that was like around, say, probably when I was 22 years old. So I definitely saw this practitioner out of state before I was 22. I just don't remember if I was younger or if I was high school. I just don't remember
Yeah.
what age I was.
Well, and so let me ask you this then. Would you say that when you made the decision to go out of state, you were like almost at your wit's end? You had it and you were like, okay, these things here are not working. And the doctors here locally, this is not working anymore. I need to search for answers elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got fed up with Western medicine pretty quickly. I've never really been a fan of Western medicine. I would even say like the majority of my life, I've just never wanted to take any type of like prescription. So I, gave up Western medicine pretty quickly and started looking into more holistic approaches.
So, and before we move into the holistic approaches, what were some of the kind of more off the wall, I guess, quote unquote, things that you had tried, and maybe they didn't work, or they weren't completely helping, but was there anything that you tried that was kind of out there and you were like almost nervous to tell your friends about, but you did maybe see a slight result?
A positive result, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Let's see. I I honestly feel like nothing worked for me. Nothing until 2001.
So what? And well, you said that you were trying and you were trying a lot of things. Are there
Yes.
any like? Is there one to maybe three things that you tried that were pretty far out there, and people were looking at you like, wait, you really tried that? Like they were almost looking at you like, oh my goodness.
Um, let's see. I I don't know if it was way out there, but as far as like holistic health, I, tried acupuncture. I tried herbs, various diets, supplements, but I don't know if it was anything like totally out there.
Okay.
But I just didn't get the results that I was looking for.
And that completely makes sense that you were not getting results, and so you continued to try things, and you kept looking, and all through this time, are you still under the impression and the assumption that this is something that is wrong with your thyroid, and you were trying to fix that problem?
I and I didn't know 100% if it was my thyroid, but it just there was a practitioner that with her information and her expertise, it was just something that she felt was my issue. And so, like I said, I did the hormone replacement and it didn't do anything at all. Absolutely nothing. No change in my energy levels at all.
And so now you're getting to the point where you're really really at your wit's end, right? and
Yes.
and, and it's coming up to this point where you finally discover something new. And so before we get into what it was you discovered, I want you to kind of take me down the path of how you discovered this, and how this really then impacted you.
Okay, so I struggled with my health most of my life. I mean, for years and like even decades. And I've never been a quitter. I've always had persistence, so I never gave up. I was unhealthy for years and I just kept doing research. And I knew one day I would figure this out and receive an answer. And I tried so much out there, nothing worked. And then finally, this was back in 2001. I think I was around 22 years old. So this was after high school. And I was doing research and I came across this article online and it's an article on adrenal burnout, and it was written by Dr. Wilson, who has been doing hair analysis for years, like decades. And I read the article and it just totally made sense to me. Like instantly, as soon as I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, what he's describing in this article totally pertains to me. Like, he's mentioned the symptoms and about hair analysis. I'm like, that is exactly what's going on with me. So what I did, I was so impressed. I called him up on the phone and I told him my symptoms. And within 5 or 10 seconds on the phone, he told me, you have adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. I was blown away. How did he know this when I've been seeing all these doctors and practitioners looking for answers for years? And he knew right away. So that's when I got my first hair analysis back in 2001. There are indicators on the hair analysis revealing that I had weak adrenal activity at a cellular level. So he was right on. He was very accurate. And then I started to get my health back by eating healthy, taking nutritional supplements and other recommendations, and even like the supplements to balance the mineral ratios on a hair analysis. And I got my health back, and I was so impressed with what a hair analysis reveals. Ever since then, it's like there's other tests that are great, but this is absolutely my favorite test. And I still, to this day, still receive my hair test. I just got my hair tests back recently, so I still do my retest, and I do get my retest every, I'd say, 3 to 4 months.
So, what I want you to do first for me is just take me through real quick how the hair analysis works. What do you have to do on your end for this hair analysis, or what did you have to do for that very first hair analysis? Is it like one of those kits they send you? You like pluck a hair out of your head, you just put it in there and mail it back, or how does that work?
Yes. Well, at the time, back in 2001, I had Dr. Wilson review my hair test. So I basically sampled my hair. I believe I sent it to him, and then he sent it off to a laboratory. I got the results, and I got to meet with him in person. I actually got to meet with him in person. I believe at least a couple of times in person, and then he went over the results with me. And then to this day, I still consult clients. And so basically what people do is they'll send in their hair samples around the world. They'll mail them to me. Once I receive them, I'll mail them off to a laboratory I work with, and then I will receive the hair analysis, and then I will come up with recommendations for my clients to balance their body chemistry naturally to get healthy, increase energy.
So what were some of the initial recommendations that Dr. Wilson had made to you this first time around?
Yes, so I love his diet. Like, I've done a lot of research on diets over the years, and I feel like he has one of the best diets. So his diet basically consists of a lot of organic cooked vegetables, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, adults need 7 to 9 cups of organic cooked vegetables. And, staying away from processed foods, junk foods. Animal protein's important, especially for individuals that have weak adrenal and thyroid activity at a cellular level. And based on hair analysis research, the majority of the population are slow oxidizers, and that's a metabolic type that you'll actually see on a hair analysis. There's fast oxidation and slow oxidation. There's 2 metabolic types. And slow oxidation has to, basically slow oxidizers, they have a slow metabolism. Fast oxidizers have a fast metabolism. So slow oxidizers, because they have weak adrenal and thyroid activity at a cellular level, animal protein is important to enhance their weak adrenal and thyroid activity. Also, his diet consists of no fruit, avoiding sugar, avoiding wheat, and there's some complex carbs that are okay and some fat. Like, for example, raw dairy is allowed on his diet. And then he would recommend nutritional supplements to balance my mineral ratios on my hair test. And I mean, the supplements were okay, but I feel that what really helped me is there's animal glandulars, freeze dried, and this is an adrenal glandular. It's not, there's some people in health and wellness, like in the health and wellness space, that will recommend like hormones and thyroid hormones. And I just don't feel like that's a really good approach. I feel like, it can unbalance body chemistry. It can be problematic, but this is more of a natural approach. They're freeze-dried animal glandulars. And I took an adrenal glandular, and that really did help to get my energy back, and then also a healthy lifestyle. Going to bed before 9 o'clock at night, getting plenty of sleep at night, doing meditation, reducing stress, foot reflexology, detoxification to remove toxins from the body. And one of his protocols for detox was near-infrared sauna therapy. It consists of red heat lamps, and it will remove over 24 of toxic metals, hundreds of toxic chemicals from the body. And there's other recommendations, but those were some of the main ones that he had suggested for me.
Now, there's two things that I would really like to kind of expand on a little bit further. And the first one, maybe we don't have to expand on, too much, but I actually pretty much practice everything that you were just discussing. And it seems like when I am, practicing these good habits, especially when it comes to diet, those, little blackout incidents that we were quote unquote talking about, they don't happen nearly as much, if at all. And so I definitely get that. But the one that I think would be very, very hard for me would be the no fruit. I definitely, I love my fruit, and I know that fruit has, sugar, and there's kind of that argument that goes back and forth between, well, it's natural sugar, it's not, processed sugar that you're having, like if you drink a can of soda or something like that. But that would be a really, really hard one for me to give up, I think. And I would have to say, in my defense, over some of the other processed foods, I think that, having a piece of fruit now and again is definitely a little bit better than having something that's highly, highly processed, or, literally a cup of sugar in soda.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it would be better than soda. And, people that are trying, let's say someone wants to get off fruit and it's difficult for them. I do believe in my past it was hard for me. And I guess, I mean, Dr. Wilson, he has like a lot of reasons why people shouldn't eat fruit, like a whole list. And one example is like it can consist of fructose, which is one of the worst sugars. And the fruit today has like more sugar and less nutrients. And he has a whole list. And I remember when I used to have fruit, it really made me even more tired with my energy. I remember that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it totally just messed up my energy. And so I've been off fruit for quite a long time. It's just made a difference for me. But, people that are transitioning, what's helped me, because I'm into meditation. And so that helped me quite a bit, like because I used to have a horrible diet. Like I used to eat just unhealthy foods. I actually had an eating disorder in my past that I had to go through in addition to the adrenal fatigue. So I ate really unhealthy, and it was hard for me to transition over to a healthy diet, but I did my meditation every day, and I actually gained discipline where I was able to give up my unhealthy foods, including, not eating fruit anymore. And also people that are trying to transition over to, giving up fruit completely, like if someone has a craving, like every now and then for a piece of fruit, well, maybe you just do a few berries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could definitely see how the meditation can help with that. I think that meditation is is absolutely amazing, and it's not this woo woo far out thing, and it's very easy to do nowadays with all of these apps like Headspace and Calm, and it's right there on your phone, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like in a dark room for 20-30 minutes. You could very easily just kind of close your eyes and focus on your breath. And I think that those are things that I wasn't aware of prior to starting meditation. And meditation was something that really helped me as well. So I completely agree with you. And I can see how that meditation would assist you, especially in something like giving up fruit. But the other thing that I wanted to really kind of unpack a little bit more was these animal glands that you were taking. What exactly is that? And what do you mean you were taking an animal gland? Is this like a frozen gland that you would eat, or I mean, what is
Oh,
that?
right. Yeah, it basically consists of a adrenal glandular. So it's an actual gland. It's freeze dried, and it comes from like an animal, but it's basically it's in a there's so many on the market today, but I believe the one that I took, especially back in 2001, it came from the hair analysis laboratory. So it was just like more of a capsule that I took, like a supplement.
Okay.
And I truly feel that helped me so much. So I really feel that the supplements, especially the glandulars, helped me so much. And giving up the fruit helped tremendously. And, really just eating healthy and eating my organic cooked vegetables. And also, what can weaken the adrenal glands. I mean, there's people that can actually, let's say, you can actually be born with this issue because it's so common today, this problem, this health issue. And so you can actually have it. It can be present at birth. It can be due to stress is an issue. People are toxic today. People have nutrient deficiencies. Stimulants are not good for the adrenal glands, including like caffeine, drinking coffee.
I know.
And
I have a
and then
coffee obsession. I know. And I just I don't know if it's me being I guess like defensive about it, but I do truly love coffee. Like I don't have many vices in life, but coffee is one. And it's not just the cup of coffee itself, it's kind of like the whole process. Like I enjoy making coffee. I really enjoy going to get coffee. And I have heard people say this as well. Like it's just actually the act of going to the coffee shop and getting a cup of coffee. Like it's something that I really enjoy doing. I enjoy getting on my bike and riding to a coffee shop and getting a cup of coffee and then coming back. So I know that the stimulant isn't the best for, adrenal fatigue and adrenal exhaustion, but I will say that it's one of my vices and I do enjoy it.
oh, I understand. I know a lot of people enjoy it, and the aroma and all that. So
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So are you a coffee drinker yourself or no?
I remember when I was younger, I was just so much into that. But with this program and the diet, you have to give up all this. You have to get rid of the caffeine, coffee, and eat healthy. And Dr. Wilson back at that time was really strict. I mean, it's like you have to do this at 100%. And then with exercise, and I know this would be kind of difficult to even mention, but he, especially back in 2001, because I've known him for a really long time, but also he's more into gentle exercise. He felt like with vigorous, that can affect the adrenals too.
And that's why I said at the beginning, of the show that a lot of endurance athletes have probably had some of these symptoms because we're talking about vigorous exercise for extended periods of time. I mean,
Right,
before
right,
we
right.
jumped on the podcast tonight,
Exactly,
I just
exactly.
I just went
Yeah,
for a run for an hour
yeah,
and 20 minutes. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
but it's funny because I I get more energy after I do that for some reason, as opposed to on the days where I skip that, I don't have as much energy and I don't feel as clear headed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I think like some of these stimulants, like maybe even vigorous exercise would be considered one, like vigorous exercise, caffeine, stimulants, even I would even consider loud music as one. And it's like it whips up the adrenal glands, gives you that high,
Mm-hmm.
but eventually it just continues to weaken them over time.
Interesting. Interesting. So, what were some of the exercises that you started doing when you first started with this program with Dr. Wilson?
Yeah, so it was just more, uh, for example, he's a big fan of walking.
Mm-hmm.
So just going, for nothing like fast, not fast walking, but just gentle walking, walking slowly. And I still to this day do that. I feel it's like one of the best exercises. And the reason I say that there's so many benefits, like it'll improve health, it'll keep your lymphatic system going, instead of being congested where you're not doing any exercise. And I feel like it's a form of meditation. Like you were mentioning earlier, you don't have to just sit in a dark room and do your meditation, but even going out and outside into nature and going for a walk, that is a form of meditation. You're quieting your mind when you really like feel the energy like within your body when you're going for a walk. I had an eating disorder in my past. I did meditation, and one of my meditations that I did was going out in nature and going for a walk, and that actually quieted my mind. So it's a form of meditation. And then also going for walks, it'll improve your vision. Anyone that has any vision problems, when you're doing distance vision, you're always looking out in a distance like that, that'll improve your vision. And I dropped my prescription drastically from getting away from my computer more and going outside more.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. And I think some especially amateur runners and people who are getting into this walking or running, whatever the case may be, they find themselves staring down at the ground and staring down at their feet. And one of the first things, as a coach that you try and teach them is to lift their gaze and actually gaze out, in front of you and look at where you're going, as opposed to looking straight down at the ground.
I'm
So
so glad you brought that up. Thank you. I believe the same thing. Thank you.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And believe me, it improves your running form as well. So it's definitely, it's good practice to kind of gaze out in front of you. And especially for some of us who are racing, you get a chance to take in what's going on around you as well, especially during a race. There's so many people who are out spectating and cheering, and there's so much going on around you that it's nice to kind of quite literally pick your head up and see what's going on around you, as opposed to kind of staying in your tunnel and just staring down at your feet for an hour to 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the distance of your race.
Absolutely.
And so I want to talk with you a little bit now and transition over to, in 2001, you experience all of this and you start to really see some improvements. And now you want to make this transition to using this to build a career. So talk to me a little bit about how you then transition this into your career, and have the opportunity to now help other people who are experiencing some of these same things that you experienced.
Okay, so since hair analysis like changed my life in the most beautiful way, and it's absolutely my favorite test, and I gained back my health, and I worked with Dr. Wilson for a long time, all the way back to 2001. I finally decided in 2009 to start my business offering hair analysis and increase your vitality programs. And it's just been amazing, like being able to work with clients from around the world. And I presently don't work with Dr. Wilson, and I was fortunate enough to be able, because he really very was. I learned so much from him, and then I was able to collaborate with other hair analysis gurus that have been doing this work for decades as well, like Dr. Wilson. I got to work with Dr. David Watts, who owns one of the hair analysis laboratories, and he's been, researching and reviewing hair tests for decades. And then also got to work with Dr. Rick Malter, who's also an expert with the hair analysis. So got to learn from, and also analytical research labs, the staff there. So got to work with these gurus. And then I came up with my own program because I feel like they're all wonderful, and I took the best from each of them. And then the ones where I didn't feel there's certain approaches I disagreed with, I just left those out. And then I'm actually going beyond hair analysis as well, and continuing my education, but also I'm getting into sound healing and quantum biofeedback as well, which will be offered later this year. So hair analysis will always be offered on my website forever because I always plan to offer it. It's my favorite test, but I'm adding additional services on my website hopefully later this year.
And so when someone, is interested in doing a hair analysis with you, what does that process look like?
Okay, so basically they go to my website at perfecthealthconsultingservices.com. They order their hair analysis. I have different packages, and then they'll, receive instructions how to sample their hair. They'll mail me their hair sample, and then once I receive it, I send it off to the laboratory that I work with. Then once I get the hair tests back, I will design an increase your vitality program for the client, including a healthy diet, nutritional supplement recommendations, healthy lifestyle, detox, meditation. There may be other recommendations, especially if someone's been through like emotional trauma or has an addiction. And then depending on the package, I will send them their hair test, the interpretation report from the hair analysis laboratory that goes into detail about their body chemistry. I record my voice, and I will give an interpretation of their hair analysis, let them know what's going on with their body chemistry. I will send them my specific recommendations of what they need to do to get healthy. I will provide them with my Get Healthy ebooks. They're free, and has a lot of information about my recommendations, health resources, more about hair analysis. And then I have some clients that want a video conference, so we'll record it on Zoom, and then I'll just provide the recording, the video conference or the video recording for them. And so that's how it works. And then I usually recommend, keeping in touch, especially if someone goes through like a healing crisis, because that can happen when you're eliminating when you're trying to make positive changes. You're eating healthy, living a healthy lifestyle. Healing crisis can come up, healing reactions when you're eliminating toxins. So to be in touch if that happens, making sure you do your retest, that's important because body chemistry can change, which means supplements have to be readjusted, and there might be changes with recommendations. So I highly, highly recommend the retests.
And now, before you launched this company, Perfect Health Consulting Services, what were you doing as your job? And were you you still had your radio show, or was this something that all came together at the same time?
Okay, so my radio show hasn't been on the air. It's only been on the air it'll be this August will be 2 years. So back then, even before I started my business, back in 2009, I was actually, before I even started my business, I was in the healthcare industry. So I was, I have a bachelor's in business management, a master's in healthcare administration. So I did management. I had jobs, careers. And then I eventually started the business, and then it's just progressed where it's the radio show now, and now I'm on 2 networks, and I'm going to be offering additional services and getting this book done. And so my goal really is to, as much as I can, let people know about hair analysis, because a lot of people don't know about it, including doctors. And the reason being is because hair analysis is not being taught in medical schools, including naturopathic medical schools. And I feel it's a shame. People need to know about hair analysis.
And so when you had the idea to start this, did you kind of launch this as a side hustle when you were working in your healthcare field before you took this on full time?
Absolutely.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, were you just doing some hair analysis and things on the side? And did you have any resources from the full-time job that could help you launch and maintain or build this side hustle?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say that for many years I had a full-time job, and then I would continue to get hair tests on a regular basis. I actually got quite a bit of hair tests just coming in. So at nighttime, I'd be reviewing the hair tests. I'd be reviewing the hair tests on the weekends. So for years, I was working 7 days a week. And then what I did is, I mean, with entrepreneurs, everyone's different. I mean, maybe some can just launch a business and do it full time, and there's other entrepreneurs, they have to have a job along with their part-time business to build up. But I was grateful that I worked 7 days a week, because I was able to save quite a bit of money. And then I was able to get into real estate, and just having that extra savings and getting to real estate really helped me with my business to really take it to the next level, where I could, offer these like additional services and purchase technology and grow my business, and with the radio show, invest in that. And so savings was really important for me. Like, that really helped. And then also real estate helped as well.
And so with the real estate, real estate agents, at least from my assumption, I'm not in real estate and I haven't been in real estate. So I only have it from kind of like a 20,000 foot view, but it seems like they have a fairly flexible schedule. And so do you feel like you had a flexible schedule while doing real estate, which then could really help with building, this quote unquote side hustle?
Yeah, so it wasn't, and just let my, people listening to this interview. So with the real estate, I wasn't a realtor, but what I did is I was working 7 days a week. So I had my career, and then I was reviewing hair tests. So I was working 7 days a week. And then I had extra savings. I just built up my savings. And then what I was able to do is, with that extra additional savings, I was able to actually purchase real estate and then have tenants in there. And that really helped, because I had, more cash and like more savings because with a business, you have to invest a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, advertising and websites and hiring coaches. I've had mentors and coaches. You have to pay them so they can help you to grow your business. And then the real estate really helped me, because investing in real estate helped me, because I was able to get amazing technology. I want to offer additional services. And without that real estate, that would have been very difficult to buy this technology. So I could, offer additional services in the future.
Okay. So I understand. So you weren't necessarily a real estate agent out there showing
Investor.
houses and everything. Yeah, you were more a real estate investor, where you were purchasing properties and then you had tenants. It was, a rental property.
A rental property, exactly. Yes.
Okay. So, through building all of this and building your business and having the real estate and everything, what would you say was your number one tool for success?
Let's see. I would say for anyone that wants to start a business, my number one would be persistence. because I have struggled most of my life, had a lot of failures, had issues with my health for decades. And there, was probably like a lot of individuals in my shoes that would just wanted to give up like a long time ago. But if you know what you want to do in your life, you have a life's purpose, no matter how many times you fail, you're going to get up and keep pushing forward. So I feel like persistence was absolutely number one for me as far as being part of my success.
And so building off of that, you had the persistence and you built this company and your hair analysis and everything, but you're now also writing a book and you have a radio show and you have a lot of things that are going on. So what keeps you motivated? What keeps your persistence? What keeps you kind of striving for that next thing?
I believe it's my life's purpose. And I believe everyone has a life's purpose. So once you know it, and there might be some people that don't discover it right away, it might take them a while, it might take them years or even later in life, but once you know it, you will do whatever it takes to stay on that path and make a difference in this world. And it's all about your life's purpose. That's what I feel just keeps me motivated every single day. It's like this passion, and even if you have a hard day, it's like you're still happy in a way because you're following your life's purpose.
And so, as we, kind of start to wrap up our conversation here, I want to be very respectful of your time. I want to just kind of ask you one last question here before I give you a chance to kind of let everybody know where they can get in touch with you for some of the things that you offer, or if they just want to keep up with kind of some of the things that you have going on. My final question for you is, I want you to kind of take a step back to that year 2001, just before you discovered hair analysis, and you were I'm assuming very frustrated with you had tried so many different things, and you probably, as I said, I'm assuming there was probably a point where you may have felt like there were no answers. I want you to kind of go back to that point and think about, at the same time, somebody who could be in those shoes, and it may not be just strictly for adrenal fatigue. It could be somebody who is very overweight and needs to get started, but they feel like there may not be an end. What do you have to say to that person to get them over that hump and, just as you did, keep pushing on?
Yeah, so I would tell them, person, is going through a similar situation that I had to go through, is never give up. It's all about persistence. And so no matter how many times like you just get frustrated, you get fed up that you're not receiving answers, you're struggling with your health, is you just keep pushing forward, never give up, and just keep, doing your research like I did. And I feel, because I've went through quite a few struggles in my life. It was a pretty hard life, and having the adrenal fatigue, and I had an eating disorder in my past for 9 years. Went through some trauma. I've had a pretty difficult life, but when you look back at your life, there was a reason that you had to go through all of that. And so now that I look back at my life, I'm like, okay, it makes sense to me. I had to go through all that to find my life's purpose and to gain wisdom. And I truly feel I see things in a different way compared to I see things in a different way that other people do not see at all because of going through what I went through. So it's gaining wisdom and finding your life's purpose And then I would tell people too, let's say that just some random person came to you right now and they're struggling. I really would tell them, uh, to get a hair analysis. I feel like it would be like a shortcut for them. And there's other recommendations and modalities I recommend at times, and everyone's different. But I feel like the hair analysis would really give people a shortcut instead of having to search for answers for years. It's a very valuable test and it reveals so much about body chemistry.
Well, Kristen, I would like to first, take a minute to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today and sharing your story. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and really go through things. And just before we sign off, I would like to give you a chance to let everybody know where they can get connected with you, whether it be for some of these services or just to say hi and let you know that they listened to your story here on the podcast.
Yeah, so as far as my contact information, I have perfecthealthconsultingservices.com. That's my hair analysis website. And like I mentioned earlier, I'll be offering later on this year sound healing as well as quantum biofeedback. And then I have another website too. It's KristenHarperSpeaks.com. That's KRISTEN HarperSpeaks.com. I'm a health and wellness speaker. That's my speaking website. And then also I do have a radio show. It's on voiceamerica.com, which is the largest live internet radio network in the world. And my show is called Tips to Keep You Healthy, Happy, and Motivated. And it airs every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time.
Awesome. Well, Kristen, as I said, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for sharing your story here on the Do It For Yourself podcast.
You're absolutely welcome. And I enjoyed conversing with you, and you asked some amazing questions, and I wish you my best.
Thank you. How did that one land with you? How did that one make you feel? And have you ever experienced any of the things that Kristen was experiencing and, some of the many things that we talked about in this episode? I'm sure as you heard, I myself experienced something that Kristen was going through, and I have never met anyone who had gone through this, let alone really understood what it was that I was experiencing. And so that was something that was really, really fascinating to me. And I'm sure that you could kind of hear my excitement as we were discussing this, because I have never been able to really talk about it with anyone because they didn't understand what it was that I was going through. So that was something that I really, really enjoyed, through this conversation. And I just really enjoyed this conversation overall with Kristen. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation that we had. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out with us and spend an hour and sit down, or maybe, do your cardio or just hang out and listen to this conversation. So I thank you for spending that time with us here on the Do It For Yourself podcast. If you are interested, please do me a huge favor, something that will support this show so much. Share this episode or an episode that you have really enjoyed with your friends, your family, your followers. Take a screenshot real quick, post it up onto your Facebook page, your Facebook stories, your Instagram stories, Snapchat, Twitter, wherever it is that you like to interact with people. That is going to help grow this show, my friends, and that is something that I would be forever grateful for. So if you could take a minute to do that, please find it in your heart to help me out. I would really appreciate it. But until next week, we have another guest that is going to be absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to share that interview with you. I hope that you enjoy your weekend, and I look forward to having you back again next week.